Good morning, everybody. John Spielka here for GAI Insights, giving your GenAI news briefing, rating the top news essential, important, or optional, putting thoughts in your head, time in your day. And remember, you can find the articles at gaiinsights.com/articles. For those of you watching on YouTube, please do like and subscribe to the channel. All right, Akash, first article, please.
So thanks, Sean. So the first one that we have for today comes from Mistral, and Mistral says that medium is the new large.
All right, Tim, what do you think here? Are they just making noise or is it real?
I think this is probably important. I'm between optional and important. It's a product announcement, but the results are really good, and the cost is an order of magnitude less. And they've given it a fair amount of integration and tool integration. They host it. You can do it inside and outside, another open source thing. So, it's normally I'm pretty hesitant to give importance to product announcements, and this is a fairly important company in Europe. Although I know we kind of pick on them a little bit for their lack of marketing and things, but this is some really impressive results across a wide range of things and a lot of features in a much smaller and more cost-effective model that can be run inside the firewall. So there's a lot of interesting things here, and it may mark a new threshold of performance and cost. So that's the reason I sort of was leaning a little bit towards important.
Yeah, really impressive. You look at the benchmarks here, for a medium-sized model to go against the big open source and proprietary models. So, what do you think here, Amanda? And welcome. Amanda, can you hear me?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I was kind of just getting on here. Yeah, I could go important because I agree with Tim, but I'm kind of teetering on the optional side actually on this one.
All right, Luda.
Yeah, I was between optional and important. I could go with important for the reasons that Tim outlined. It's 8x cost reduction and performance improvement. So, and the results are like on par. It's a medium-sized model, but the results they're measuring with the big models, and they hint at the end that they will introduce another model that is bigger and hopefully with better results, right? So this is good to know, and that's why the folks who are experimenting which models are good for what, it's good for them to know that this exists.
All right, I'm headed toward important here. Paul, what do you think?
Optional product announcement, everyday miracle.
All right. He's raining on my parade. Optional it is. Akash, next.
Next one is again from Mistral, and they have introduced a chatbot enterprise model.
All right, Luda, are we in product announcement?
So this is
announcement hell here. We're going to go for optional again, or we got
no, I think it is important. So the model itself on which this is built is a good one that we've just discussed, right? It's an everyday miracle, so it's a good model. However, what they did here, it's a very comprehensive package of enterprise-related tools that building an environment that's comparable to the likes of Microsoft and AWS. We don't know because this is a product announcement, but the features and the package and the platform is quite comprehensive, especially for building agents. So this provides an alternative out there for enterprise use. So that's why I was thinking important.
All right, we have important here. And Kevin also raises a really important point here, which is the current administration is creating such tension with a lot of countries around the world that they're no longer relying on the U.S. or feel more worried about using U.S. supply of anything. And so I think it's going to really increase the demand for other non-U.S. models. What do you think here, Tim?
Yeah, again, we can have the same conversation we had last time. I agree with what Luda said. It's really impressive how well integrated and comprehensive the offering is. It is a little bit of catch up because most of the other models have these things already. But again, it's cheaper, and it's in Europe. This is one of those things where we probably say in Europe this is essential. In the rest of the world, maybe it's optional, leaning towards important.
And remember, they built a quite well thought through various languages interfaces. So they were the first ones that introduced 100 plus various languages. So I suspect that this is in here as well. So it just strengthens what Tim was just saying for Europe.
Yeah, what do you think? I've had it for important here. Amanda, what do you think?
I'm on optional for this one. I just don't think there's a lot of information in the article itself. I've seen that in some of the other ones today, that if I have to dig and I don't see things right off the bat, it's an optional for me.
All right, Paul, I get a feeling you're going optional.
Yeah, optional product announcement. If it's so good, they should be able to get customers and case studies and impress us.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one important because important is still optional reading. And so, all right, important it is. Next.
Question comes from Cognition, the parent company of Devin, and they have launched Kevin 32 billion parameter model using multi-turn reinforcement learning for writing CUDA kernels.
Yeah, a little bit of algorithmic innovation here in terms of how things get improved. What do you think, Amanda?
Yeah, as soon as I see things like this, I'm skeptical. I'm typically on the optional for these kind of things because, again, stuff like this, there's a lot of information in here, but I'm more concerned with when I test it out, is it working or not? So this is chock full of information, but I don't even know if I need all this information to get out of what's kind of in this article. And then when I kept reading, so please, others correct me if I'm wrong, it says it's not production ready yet either. So for those points, I'm on optional for this one.
Yep, I would agree.
Right.
It's really, really interesting article. It's fairly long and fairly detailed, quite interesting, but it's research. It's research by the company that creates Devin, Cognition AI, which has a reasonably good reputation. It's quite interesting what they accomplish in benchmarks, but it's research right now. So could be really interesting. A couple of really interesting ideas about how to use various types of modified training techniques to really improve iterative code production. So again, trying to sort of mimic the way humans do it a little bit. So rather than doing everything in one pass, having the model keep going through the code to try and improve it, and taking on a pretty tricky task, which is low-level kernel writing interface, as they call it. So optimizing something for GPUs made by NVIDIA, which requires some pretty low-level code, pretty complex stuff. But research, and despite the fact that Devin has a good reputation now, a lot of these things aren't going to survive. So sometimes the baby gets flushed with the bathwater, as we say, particularly in capitalistic markets with increasing returns and path-dependent economics and all that. We'll see, but optional for now.
All right, Luda, I know you've written kernels in the past. What do you think of this?
Yeah, so this is an interesting, agree on optional, but this is a very interesting algorithmic innovation. So there is a quote from the bitter lesson at the end from Richard Sutton, right? And he talks about how in AI in general, we've been very much trying to put human reasoning and heuristics in the guts of the algorithms. And this eventually, in the short term, it's very good. And he says, well, it's satisfying to the researchers. That's true. But in the long run, it doesn't work. It plateaus and then stops working. And you have to really come up with a different approach that is algorithmic, right, computational and focused on search and learning. And that's what they're doing with the multipass and trying to improve it, and with a very sophisticated reinforcement learning technique. So I feel this is a great innovation. in the algorithms for that, especially in the coding domain. But for the rest of the populace, I think it's certainly optional.
Yeah, I'm with you, Luda. The very interesting algorithmic innovation. All right, let's put this baby optional, but keep an eye on this, because if this kind of interim progressive reinforcement learning works and coding and so forth, it's going to be a big deal. All right, Akash, next.
The next one comes from MIT and talks about how a patient's Neuralink brain implant is getting a boost from GenAI.
Yeah, amazing story about a guy with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, who decided who can only move his eyes, and he's living with a breathing tube, and now can interact with people because of the combination of the Neuralink interface and Grok AI. Let's see, who do we have in this one? I think it was Tim. Yes.
Yeah.
What'd you
So
think?
I think I'm going to say optional for the general purpose AI leader. If you want, a feel-good story, you should read this because it's a feel-good story. I worked in ALS research. It's a terrible disease, and this is a real advance. And I think these will continue. This is not the only company doing these brain link interfaces, and I think they're just going to be incredibly valuable for these folks. It raises all sorts of existential questions. It's to be a little snarky, since I'm in a snarky mood this morning, people were all completely flipped out that vaccines would somehow inject chips in us that Bill Gates had fabricated. But here we have Elon Musk in complete control of actual chips that are actually inside people's brains. And he controls all the software and all the media communications channels. So just FYI. And it creates an interesting dynamic, because now you have something that is critical to health and to people's well-being completely controlled by a very wealthy individual. So interesting. So far, so good. I'm happy to see it. I do think there are these ancillary questions around it that are pretty important. Also, what does it mean? Because this isn't using generative AI to translate this fellow's thoughts. We're a long ways from that. What it does, though, is make him suggestions about what he can write out. And having worked with ALS patients, it's a huge advance, because instead of taking, a minute, 2 minutes to type a simple sentence by twitching your eyelid, literally, you can get out a sentence in a couple of seconds by choosing something that a generative AI machine has done for you. So it's a real advance for them. I'm happy to see it. It raises some interesting questions, but optional in general for the AI leader.
Yeah, optional. Interesting. I mean, amazing story. What do you think here, Paul?
I think for AI leader optional, but I do think this is another really good indication. John, I love your term. All the world is a barcode. So a couple of weeks ago, we saw the AI starting to talk, decipher the dolphin language. We've got things. So this whole notion that computers used to be able to talk to other computers to get innovation. Now we can find breakdown communication in all forms is another thing. But for the AI leader, a good feel good but optional.
Amanda, you optional as well?
Yeah, I'm optional. And my first thought was I agree with Tim on like an amazing breakthroughs and things like this. But as soon as I see that, the engineers are using ChatGPT and Grok to basically pull out relevant replies and things like this, but then I guess they're vetting everything. I'm thinking, what is the actual breakthrough? Because if there's some kind of hallucinations or something weird going on there that's being generated, if the human's kind of overwriting that at this point anyway, where is the non-human interaction that makes me want to fall off my chair? So I'm kind of like, and maybe it's clearly written somewhere else and I'm just totally ignorant to it. But based on the article, I feel like this is very optional for me.
Luda?
Yeah, optional. It just, the whole article is not about this innovation that we've heard about before. It's about this question of where the human ends and the AI stuff begins, that is putting thoughts into his responses. So I think it's super optional.
Yeah, I'm going to give this an optional, but I will tell you, this is like, in any flight I have, going in an airplane, every once in a while I kind of wake up and go, I can't believe I'm 5 miles in the air. I mean, this thing is like, we're talking about a guy who's got electrodes in his brain that's now speaking, and all he can do is move his eyes. I mean, come on. I mean,
Yeah. No,
It's
okay.
remarkable. It's absolutely,
totally.
and a big advance for ALS patients and other patients who have motor neuron or these kinds of problems. And I think we'll see more things like this, and it's great. I think it's absolutely great. I remember there was an ALS article similar to this a long time ago, and I sent it to everybody I knew.
Alrighty. Optional it is. Akash, next.
Nixon comes from Bain and Company, and it's a survey and talks about GenAI's uptake despite roadblock.
I think it's me.
Sorry, yes, it's you, Luda. Sorry, I got
Okay.
thinking new
So
work from our friends at Bain.
yeah, so I actually very uncharacteristically rated this article essential because it actually, in a very brief, I think, couple of pages, summarizes what has happened over a year, just a very short time, in adoption and in budgets in GenAI, and that's incredible. And I think every AI leader who is working on AI implementations is struggling with how to scale, getting the right talent in place. There are lots of things to do, but they need to know that they're not alone and this is really happening. So 95% of companies are now using it. It's a 12% uptick, and production cases have doubled, even though absolute numbers is 2.5, scaled up production implementations versus 5, right? So absolute numbers on average. So absolute numbers are not that big, but it's in terms of the uptick, it's big. Use cases meet expectations or exceed them, and there is about 20% of transformational stories. This is great, right? Because we haven't heard it last year, so this is relatively new. And the barriers are vendor issues, talent gaps that we knew about but haven't heard it as pronounced as this, and security and output quality, that's we know. So the budgets are doubling over the last period, and so it's I think it's essential.
Yes, Akash, if you go down toward the end, it shows the budget numbers. Yeah, what do you think here, Tim?
Yeah, I can go along with essential. It doesn't really say anything that we didn't already know, and we can tear apart the methodology if we want to be nasty, but it's okay. And they surveyed 200 companies, and it tells it's good quantitative validation at some level. Although again, it's a survey, so take it with a little bit of a grain of salt. But it summarizes it well, puts it all up there. The budget numbers are interesting. Again, you have to take it with a grain of salt because this is a survey. This isn't really like we know they're doing this or what they're doing. But on the other hand, pretty interesting, easy read, and makes the point that this thing is still moving at breakneck speed.
Yeah, I take issue, Tim, with, you can say, look, all surveys are ridiculous. Okay, once we get past the fact it's a survey, this is new information. I haven't seen this information anywhere, that budgets are doubling across different size companies. That the majority of
I
people
think we have. I'd probably be hard pressed to find the exact articles, but I think I read an article that said almost exactly that. It was Sloan's MIT Technology Review or something that said budgets were doubling year over year, and so I've definitely read it. But I would say I can't cite the source, and it's not like there's 100 of them.
All right. Okie dokie. Amanda, we're headed for Essential. What do you think here? You good with that?
Yeah, I think so the majority wins on this one, but I think I'm like the bearer of bad news here, because when I looked at it from a survey standpoint, and like you said, don't look at the survey, but my issue with it is I think the largest number I saw was 200 and something, and I'm like, aren't there millions of companies out there? Is this really a representative sample of what's going on? It reads good on paper, but I'm like, I just don't know if there's enough companies participating, and I can't see who it is or what it is or what sector, you know, they do break out, some of that. But I'm just like, I don't know, like, if this is a good enough sample for me to even listen to this. That's what's kind of hanging me. But I can definitely go with the group. But again, I feel like there's not enough companies speaking, and this could be biased, and who knows really what it is. So that's why I was pushed the other way on this one.
It's a very good point, Amanda. But given all of that, it's still an indication. So if Ankash, you scroll up, the biggest one was not the budgets for me. It was if you scroll up to the responses of results. Not this one, right? So yeah, this one. Yeah, granted, it's only 154 or something on the right. So the people who responded to tell Bain, right, on what they've done, right, and how this performed, the 20% at the bottom is the transformational implications. That's kind of caught my eye. So it's indications that it's not just implementations, it's in the places where it would make serious difference.
Yeah, I mean, on the statistics, you know, if I've got 120 to 100 to 200 on averages, and I'm not trying to do a causal linkage, I think that's plenty of data. There may be selection bias in the sense that people who respond are happier about it. I agree with that, but I'm not there for the numbers plenty high. Selection bias, I agree.
I wouldn't argue with that. I agree. Yeah,
You know,
statistical levels are fine. It'd be nice if they showed you a little bit more about what the statistics were, but yeah, I agree. 200's plenty.
Yeah. Anyway, so essential it is. Next, Akash.
Okay, the next one that we have today comes from Hugging Face, and they have launched computer use in small agent.
All right, small agent, Amanda, what do you think?
So I think this is almost like a product announcement on this one. I was optional because on this tweet or this post, there wasn't a lot of information. So anything I needed to look for, I kind of had to dig on my own outside of it. So as far as the leader kind of just grabbing this announcement and running with it, I'm not sure, besides this one use case about the question and the mileage of walking, how far and things like this, it really showed us much more than that. So I feel like there's not much to go off on this one. So I rated it optional.
Me too. Optional on this one. Tim, optional?
Everyday miracle.
Luda?
Optional.
Yeah, optional.
All right,
This particular article is, if it was a little substantiated, I think, to Amanda's point, I think it might be worth considering, because this is innovation, right? This is like pointing at the visual and asking questions. It's much more in depth here than we saw before. So it is advanced, but it's hidden in here. So optional.
All right, Akash. This is an optional. Let's go ultimate. What's our ultimate article?
Sure, John. Just to add on to the last one, so it's live on Hugging Face. You can follow the link and try.
Right.
Oh, thank you.
But it's a product announcement and a tiny little company doing something really cool. Everyday miracle.
Get another product.
It's a free thing, Tim. Not a product announcement as such. It's a free thing. You can use it. So, I'm not sure. Yeah.
Well,
so the last
okay,
one
yeah,
comes
it's open source and free, right? So,
Right,
yes,
right.
good price, but it's still a product. It's I don't know what you call a product, but okay.
But maybe we give, so Ankash selected this for a reason. Ankash, maybe you could tell us why you select the previous one, right?
Right, Luda. So Luda, I selected it because we have seen computer use agents from the other closed source vendors, right? So we have one from OpenAI, one from Anthropic, and then Manas and GenSpark, they also do something similar. But this one coming from Hugging Face, open source and free to use, I think this can give anyone who wants to experiment with computer use a flavor of what they can expect when they want to go for a paid service.
Yeah, that makes sense, Ankash. John,
Yeah, good for experimentation, but again, if you're an institution, that's how you have to view it. It's like, well, I don't know this company. They're hosted on Hugging Face, might be great, but can I really hitch my wagon to this thing? So good learning environment.
Okay, let's promote it to an important thing for folks who want to explore. All right, important is Akash, last article.
The last one comes from Google, and they have made some enhancements to edit images in Gemini 2.0.
All righty, this one's Tim, I think, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, product announcement. So I'm going to say optional, but it's pretty darn impressive. You know, it's a big vendor, but it is a product announcement. And to a certain extent, it's sort of catch up to what the others at least claim to have been doing. I haven't seen a lot of actual use cases and people who are using these things, but clearly these things are really improving, particularly in-place editing, which was impossible when these things first came out, which was only like a year ago. So again, the pace at which things are moving is unbelievable. And the placement of text and the use of images as input to composite images, but all these things have been available for a little while from other platforms. So it's hard to, it's just unbelievable. I mean, again, it's John, like you were saying, I can't believe we're really here in this world and this stuff just all works. So, but it's a product announcement. Saying it all works says it all works in their demo. And it'd be interesting to start, somebody should do a survey of firms that are starting to take advantage of these various vision models to see how they're really working in production. It'd be quite interesting. If they're working as well as the demos, it is going to be revolutionary.
Yeah.
Yeah, Amanda, where are you on this?
Yeah, I agree with everything Tim said. I could be optional on the product announcement front, but I agree that also that yes, other companies are doing this, but like if I just think about ChatGPT and asking it, like I do this frequently, I'll say, can you update something? Most of the time for me, unless I'm like an anomaly, it doesn't do this. It doesn't work in this way. So I know there's like other tools out there that are more sophisticated for like image generation and things like this, which I'm not a graphic designer and I know you don't have to be to use them, but the point is I don't use them. I like ChatGPT. So if this thing's a step up from what I'm seeing daily with ChatGPT, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I could be, I look at this from when I'm actually using the tools and what I'm seeing on my own. Others could see different things and how they use these tools and which ones they play with. So for me, I could also go important because I'm like, oh, wow, it actually will change one thing and not screw up the whole picture like ChatGPT. So I could go optional or important.
All righty. Luda, I'm headed for optional. What do you think?
Sigh. Unless you put them all like line up and experiment with them, it's very hard to say. But I see this seamless integration here that I agree with Amanda, you don't have in ChatGPT or Claude, right? You give them an image and ask questions and it messes it up and the quality is not good. So if this is an advance ahead of that, then this model will have more traction because it's a useful, like, think about editing websites and presentations and the like. This is really cool. So optional, important. I can't help you, John, into important. I probably somewhere there.
All right, I'm going to give it an optional. And Akash, if you could do the toad here. I just want to make folks aware, Paul left us this morning. He's over at Bentley College, helping them figure out how they are going to use AI in their curriculum. Doing a presentation later this morning, he and I are both talking to the New England Young Presidents Organization chapter, basically 80 or 90 business owners here in the Boston area, about the implications of AI on their business. I also wanted to just spend just 2 seconds talking about this, Kevin saying, like, he's also seeing stuff that, says, hey, CEOs may or may not be that happy with implementation results. Well, let's keep an eye on that because I'm hearing more what I saw in the Bain survey, but I too may have a biased sample. And then I think Hasib also raises a really important point here about the notion of AI sovereignty. I don't know if you looked at today's paper, but the India and Pakistan situation is now pivoting around drone attacks. And, so I think the use of AI and drones is, clearly a part of the military approach of any nation now. All right, Ankash, the tote.
Yes, John.
All right, we have one essential coming from our friends at Bain, and we have two importance, Le Chat and the small agents, and available to you now. Everything else is optional. Hope this helps your day. Any other announcements, folks? Luda, Ankash, Amanda, Tim? All right, thanks, everybody. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow, and take care.